So we're good, we're set, we're live. All right, this is Rustin with Metalholic, and I'm sitting here with the legendary Mega Dave Ellefson. How are you doing?
What's going on? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Today is my birthday, so what better way to spend it?
It's your birthday? Wow, happy birthday, right?
What better way to spend it with three of the big six? You know?
We'll entertain you with a little concert tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is going to be phenomenal, and you know, and I always refer to it as the big six. They always say the big four, but I for me, to Exodus and Testament belong right in there with everybody.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's funny. Dave and I have always said that, you know, Exodus are certainly part of the big five.
Right.
I mean, their contribution out of the Bay Area thrash scene. I mean, there would not have been a scene there without their participation in it. And then, kind of right behind the big five was Testament, who developed. Yeah, they, you know, they're just unstoppable. They just keep going, which is great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's and that's where I'm from, is the Bay Area. So I was sort of there when, you know, when Kirk was still in the band and everything. So for me, they were almost like the catalyst that really.
Right. Yeah. Right. In a lot of ways. Right?
Exactly. So yesterday was the first day of the Rust in Peace 20th anniversary.
It was great. It was really, really good. I mean, we've been working really hard, you know, for the last 3 weeks. And fortunately, musically, it came together pretty quickly. Sean and Chris were both very much on the game. Me and Dave, we had to go back and revisit some songs we've never ever played live. I mean, we rehearsed them. One thing about the Rust in Peace record, we wrote that as a band in a rehearsal room over the course of about, I don't know, a year and a half, you know. So that it wasn't one of these records where you just go in and, you know, you just play some riffs into the computer and then you slice and dice it and put it together digitally. I mean, that was really, you know, well, 3 guys in the band room, and then Marty Friedman came in at the end, very end, right before we went into the studio and recorded it. So very much a band spirit, and I think those records have a different vibe to them and a different sound to them. As I look back over Megadeth's history, some of the records that seem to be the most well-received for the long haul were those records that were put together like that.
Well, and Rust in Peace is sort of, I mean, some people would call it your most seminal work, and I would have to ask, is that how you see it too, considering that we're doing the 20th anniversary tour for that and not for Peace? So, you know.
Well, it's funny, you know, Sean Drover brought up that, you know, The Killing Is My Business record came out in 1985, so really it's like 25 years of Megadeth this year. I mean, technically, the band formed in 83, right. So I mean, where you define the 25-year mark, I guess, is maybe a little subjective, but certainly since the first release of the band, you know, I mean, we're really in 25 years of releasing material at this point. So, and then for the Rust in Peace record to be at the 20-year mark, you know, it's interesting. All these records are now starting to hit this 20 and 25-year maturity. So, you know, we'll see how this tour does, and maybe there's some other ones to follow after this. Who knows?
Well, and it's interesting too, because you look back at the albums that are 20, 25, even 30 years old, and they've still got staying power, where to me, a lot of these bands that have put out albums in the last 5, 10, 15 years, they were forgotten a year after they were made. There's no sustainability anymore in sharing music.
Well, I think a lot of it too, you know, for a lot of groups, their best work is in the beginning, for whatever reason. And then after a while, making records just becomes the launch pad to go touring again. and look, as if, you know, Megadeth has stayed creatively viable, even recent years, the records that Dave's put out have been well received by the fans, by the critics, and I think there's, you know, kind of getting things back to Dave writing the material that he always wanted to write without too much influence and pressure from any, you know, radio and record companies and managers. And so I see Dave is usually at his happiest when he's just allowed to do that. And Dave is a guy who, his writing, and always has been this way from the day I met him, when he writes from the heart, the fans really latch onto that. I mean, he is really a unique, very charismatic songwriter in that sense, that it's like, man, when he just really lays it out there from his heart, it just seems like, man, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of fans around the world that really just, they see that and they identify it and they latch onto that. And I think that collectively, the various lineups over the years, as that mentality and that sort of heart has been part of the writing, those have created the best records of our career. And best meaning probably the longest, you know, like they call it seminal work. You know, they've created those types of records.
I mean, not every album is going to be a seminal piece of work. It's just kind of realistic.
Yeah, and different things happen. I mean, geez, we've transitioned through so many different things over the years. I mean, the mid 90s was a very harrowing time for any metal band, because all of a sudden it was all about the Seattle sound, and yeah, it almost, you know, that almost killed a lot of bands' careers, and a lot of people couldn't survive it. And you know, as strong and powerful as metal is at its core, that we all rally together as metal fans, and we're going to love our metal bands no matter what. Truth of it is, a lot of bands didn't survive it, you know, and it caused internal pressures and stresses. A lot of groups disbanded, they changed lineups, and you know, sometimes when lineups change, you know, fans start to kind of fall away a little bit like that. So you know, Megadeth is very, you know,